What's up, guys? Dana Claiborne, language arts tutor here. And today I am going through another introduction style lesson. This is an introduction to personal anecdote, which is probably my favorite introduction style. So, thanks for tuning in. I think that it's important to know and be familiar with different styles and different ways to write an introduction paragraph because you get different writing assignments that ask for different things. And so it helps to really have different approaches in your repertoire, so that you can use one that is natural to whatever it is you're doing. And so personal anecdote is another style of introduction that I want to be quick to share and emphasize practice for, because it's usually interesting just by virtue of what it is. That's why I say you could say it's my favorite, because of that reason. It's normally interesting if done the right way. And so I'm going to use, once again, a PowerPoint version of the guide that I used to explain this with in session. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch to number 2, and let's go back to the first slide here as we look at the end. I don't want to look at the end result just yet. So I'm going to switch to, and there I am. All right. We're live. So, personal anecdote. This strategy is interesting because it involves opening with a story style illustration or story style introduction. And that is something that is gripping because we as gregarious people just like reading about other people. We just do. That's the reason why movies and fiction is so interesting, because we like reading about other people. So if you open that way, the right way, then your introduction is gripping and you can present your thesis smoothly after you have gained the reader's attention. And so that's what the focus of this is. It's about successfully presenting the topic of your prompt and leading the reader towards your thesis statement. So I do the preliminaries, which is just the purposes of an introduction paragraph. I try to remind students of this because this is what gauges whether or not, to me, this is what gauges whether or not you have written a good introduction. So every introduction I say should do these 2 things just to make it nice and simple. Number 1, it should present the overall topic of the prompt as something that's interesting or important, because if it's not interesting or important, then the reader reading it has no reason to keep reading it, right? And so you want to make sure that whatever it is that you're discussing, it sounds like something the reader should be considering, and specifically considering what you have to say about it, right? And then the second thing that every introduction paragraph should do is reveal the thesis statement at the bottom, which is what you have to say. Is the main idea that you're going to use the whole essay to discuss, right? And so personal anecdote is one style, one way to present the topic as something that the reader should consider. All right, so I just want to make sure it's clear. And this is where it is in the essay. It's the introduction paragraph. That's what personal anecdote does. It's a style of introduction, so just want to make sure there is no kind of confusion about where it goes in the grand scheme of the essay. Okay? Now, what is personal anecdote? This is the thick of it, right? What is personal anecdote anyway? Well, the word anecdote just means small story account. That's what it means. It means a small story style account of something. And so you can open your essay by giving a small story style account of something you were doing once that reminds you of why you feel the way you do in your thesis. I want to emphasize that the anecdote is directly connected to the thesis statement. It's something that is you can think of it like a memory of something you were doing once that reminds you of why you feel the way you do in your thesis. So whatever your thesis says, you say to yourself, what's something I was doing one time that reminds me of why I feel like this? All right. The great thing is it can be really simple. Does not have to be a full-fledged action adventure story, not at all. Doesn't have to have all the elements of plot structure. Nah. It can be just a real simple memory. It could be as simple as you watching something on TV. You watching a documentary on TV. It could be as simple as something you were reading or something you saw one time where you were. Whatever that is. That's how simple it can be. So we're not talking about a full-fledged story. Okay? But just know it's directly connected to the thesis. So it's not just any memory. It's a memory of something that reminds you specifically of why you feel the way you do in your thesis statement. All right? Hopefully that's clear. Now, samples help. It's just good to look at samples. And so this is this nice controversial persuasive prompt question I like to use. It says, should people be allowed to curse on daytime television? Uh-oh. What? You better close your mouth. And nice, controversial question. So the thesis answers that question, right? And what does it say? It says profanity should not be allowed to infect daytime television. So we say no. Cursing, nah, man. There's other ways you can get your point across than by using that kind of language. No, I'm just playing. But you get the idea. This thesis argues the negative side of the argument. It says no profanity on daytime television. Okay, so then that means that we got to think of. If we're gonna write an anecdote, we have to think of a memory of something we were doing once that reminds us of why we feel like this, why we feel like there should be no, why we feel like there should be no profanity or cursing on daytime television. Okay, so the pieces of the anecdote. This is the format of the paragraph. So I want to get this out in the open first so that you see how this paragraph is going to be laid out. Okay? Just know we had to think of a memory, and the memory is first. That's the first part of the paragraph. So it opens the paragraph. The memory that reminds us of why we feel like, why we feel the way we do in the thesis. In other words, why we feel like there should be no profanity on daytime television. Okay? And then there's the bridge. The bridge is the second part of the paragraph. It is, it connects the memory to the thesis. That's why it's called a bridge, because it connects the memory to the thesis. But all the bridge is your personal feelings about what happened in the memory. So if what happened in the memory is, good, then your bridge talks about how good it is. If what happened in the memory is bad, then your bridge talks about how bad it is. And that's really it. It's just a direct reflection of what happened in the memory, right? And then the last part of the paragraph is the thesis statement, which is the main idea that you're going to discuss in the essay as a whole. Okay? So all three pieces. Let's look at the sample. So the thesis, once again, just a reminder, says profanity should not be allowed to infect daytime television. So we're coming up with a memory that's in red. Okay? A memory that reminds us of why we feel like that. And then the bridge, which is in blue. And then the thesis itself at the bottom in purple. So I'm just going to read the memory just to get it out in the open. Okay? It says, and remember, this is a memory about why there should be no cursing on daytime television. All right? So it says, I remember as I was riding in my car one afternoon leaving school. It was a sunny afternoon. I had just finished track practice. I wanted to go get something to eat, and I was listening to the radio, hoping to hear some good tunes on my way home. I was driving down Atlee Station Road, waiting for the radio host Lonnie B to introduce a song. He apparently had a guest on the phone with him that was speaking over the air. Speaking to Lonnie B, he used profanity when referring to something that he heard him say. Stop. That right there is the memory. That's what happened, right? Notice how simple it is. Notice we didn't give you a full-fledged story. All we're really saying is we're riding the car one day, listening to the radio, and the dude's cursing on the radio. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much all we said. But we told it in a detailed way, right? We gave you kind of the background information, told you where we were coming from. We were leaving school, finished track practice, told you where we were going to get something to eat. We even told you the street we were on, riding down Atlee Station Road. We told you the radio host name, Lonnie B. So we gave you those specific details that causes the illustration to be more interesting, but it's actually still very, very simple. All we're doing is saying, we're riding the car one day, listening to the radio, and this dude's cursing on the radio. Okay? And that's all you need for the memory, since it reminds us of why we feel like we do in the thesis. Okay, so now the bridge. The bridge just simply explains how we felt about what happened in the memory. Okay, so I'm just going to read it. It says, I was shocked. See, that's how we felt. Shocked. I was shocked that the radio allowed me to hear those words and was wondering if they had made a mistake. It made me cringe and nervous from then on just to be able to listen to the radio. I realized that I did not agree. Profanity was bad for public radio. Therefore, when thinking about the new issue of whether or not to allow profanity on daytime television, the truth is the same. So we kind of use this last sentence to transition. All right. And then the last piece of the paragraph is the thesis statement. Profanity should not be allowed to infect daytime television. And so all the pieces, memory, bridge, thesis, memory, bridge, and then thesis. The whole paragraph together looks like this. Okay? So here's the memory in red, the bridge in blue, and then the thesis in yellow. Okay? Hopefully, and that is one introduction paragraph. All right? It opens the essay and presents the topic as something that is interesting and reveals the thesis at the bottom of the paragraph. Okay? Hopefully that is pretty simple and straightforward. So if I were gonna take this, I'll just kind of show it in a Google Doc, just to show it as, an introduction paragraph. Just wanna show it as what it is. Copy and paste. And so this would be the intro. And then you would have, body paragraph. Get rid of all of that. Still didn't do it. There we go. We'll just get rid of the color code. And there you go. That would be your introduction paragraph. Just like that. Now this one is, sizable. So if it doesn't have to be quite this big if you don't want it to be. But that's what it would be. It would open the essay with the story style introduction, and then we start writing topic sentences and writing body paragraphs, and that would be that. All right. Okay, switching back over. Hopefully that was pretty simple. I do encourage practice, definitely. As with anything that you're becoming accustomed to and trying to work into your skill set, practice is key. It always is. And so this is a great introduction style, a little bit less formal than societal context, or maybe another, like a quote or statistic or some other introduction style you might use. So you might want to ask your teacher if it's okay. If you're doing an essay, you might want to ask them if it's okay if you use a personal style introduction like this one, because it is it might be considered a little less formal. And so you do want to, as always, check with your teacher. But Great way to open a personal expository or persuasive essay. All right. Be sure to practice it. Let me know if you have questions. I want to know what you all think. In the meantime, I just want to thank you for tuning in once again, and I'll see you next time.